Welcome to this episode of Refactoring Java for Beginners. In this episode, we're going to talk about magic numbers, and we're going to extend that concept to magic strings. Now, let's do an overview of what magic numbers is. In programming, a magic number is when you have a floating number or a floating value that isn't assigned to any kind of variable or reference or anything like that. So, for example, 99 in a conditional would be a magic number. So, in this example, say we have something along the lines of a birth year of a user that is using our application. So we might have int birth year equals 1980, and then we might have a conditional where we want to make sure, is this user old enough? So we might say, is birth year less than or equal to 1977? So that would mean, is the user born before or on 1977? And in this case, the 1977 portion would be the magic number issue. And the reason we say it's a magic number is because coming into this code base, we don't really know why we're evaluating the value birth year against 1977. So to fix this and to clean it up, what we would do is we would assign this to a variable. So we could say int min birth year equals 1977, and then we could reference that value here. Now, you might see that IntelliJ is highlighting this for me, and the reason is because this value or this conditional is static. These values are static, they never change at runtime. However, you don't need to worry about that in this case here, because in a real application, these values would be dynamic. They would be changing per user or every runtime or something to that effect. Now, before we dive in any further, let's do a quick overview of the application. So if we scroll through the application, we can see a few things up front. First, we output a kind of menu to the user. We initialize some values, some objects. We have a while loop that's going to run until this should quit variable is true. We're going to output a caret, and then we're going to accept some user input, and then we're going to evaluate that user input. Now, in this user input evaluation, that's where we're going to start making our refactories once we get down to it. However, as we continue through the application, we can see that for each one of our conditionals, which handles each case for the commands that a user could enter, we execute some logic, and then scrolling through, it's essentially the same thing over and over. However, you can see in each one of these conditionals, we have the input comparison happening to a static reference to a string. So save, list, add, etc. Now that we've overviewed the way the application code is set up, let's talk about why we want to eliminate the magic numbers or the magic strings in this scenario. So in our case, the first thing we do is we output a menu to the user, and this menu tells the user what commands they can do when they're using the application. So for instance, imagine we have this add command here. So we have the string add up here in the menu, and then we have the string down here in the conditional. What if when I was writing this application, I accidentally had a typo? So instead of add, I said adds. Now, what would happen is when we run the program, we'll see that the menu prints, and it says the command I can do are exit, adds, list, and save. So as a user, I'm going to be like, oh, I want to add a new item to the to-do list. As a user, I'm probably not expecting that command to say adds, but let's go ahead and do what the command menu told me I could do. So I type adds, and nothing happens. So as a user, I would be pretty confused there. That bug would come back to the developer, and the developer would be like, huh, that's weird. The command is add, not adds. So let's see how we can go ahead and fix that. To eliminate the magic strings issue we have in our application, what we're going to do is we're going to refactor and extract these values out of just being kind of a static string reference and onto a method property on the application class. So to get started, we'll say private static string command add equals add. Additionally, we'll mark this string as final because we don't ever expect the value to change at runtime. So now that we've declared this class property, we can go ahead and reference it anywhere where we previously had the static string add. So that's in our command menu, as well as down here in our input comparison. So if we scroll through the rest of the application, we can see there's no other references to the string add. And now anytime where the string add was referenced, we have a reference to the class property. Now that we've made a refactor, we should test our code. So if we run our application in IntelliJ, we can see that we can run the add command and we get the proper response from the application, which asks us to input a description, and then we can exit the application. Now that we've refactored that add command, let's go ahead and do the same thing for all the other commands. So I'm going to duplicate this value here, and we will change all of them to reference the other commands we have. And then we should go through our code base and make sure we update each command. Now that we've made that refactor, again, we should go and test our changes. So to do that, we're going to run the application. See that we can enter the list command. Nothing happens because we don't have any items. So we can add an item. We can try list again. And we can exit. So great. We've gone ahead and made that refactor to hopefully reduce the likeliness that we introduce a bug with typos and that kind of thing. And by doing that, or in the way we did that, is that we moved our static strings into properties on our application class. I hope you found this lesson on refactoring magic numbers and magic strings useful. As always, you can find a link to a pull request that details the changes we made here in the video description. Feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns you might have on the lesson. See you next time.